Welcome to the Monday Morning Podcast, the only podcast that will meet all of your coronavirus musical needs, but not the cure. On this week's show, we're going to be talking about the astounding musician that's known as VHS Head. Mark and Jen are going to be talking about lights, and we're going to be having a discussion about artists who sold their soul to the devil. And we promise we won't speak about Robert Johnson one bit, not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all, not at all, not at all. So, welcome to this week's show. As I said, this week's show we're going to kick it off talking about an electronic music artist by the name of VHS Head. I don't know really how best to describe the musical style, so I suppose we'll just get straight into one of these tracks. Yeah, so that track there was called Motorcycles, off his first album, but he had an EP before that, but the album was called Trademark Ribbons of Gold, which is in reference to like the golden age, I suppose, of the VHS. As
Tapes.
in tape. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, so as people can say, like there's comparisons there, I suppose, with Autechre and fucking Apex Twin, but there's a term coined, I think it was just like the American version, because I've only heard it recently, called IDM.
Industrial dance music. What?
No, intelligent dance music.
I see.
Which a lot of people that are kind of like after being put with that, but it's a lot of bands that were on the Warp label, and VHS Head is on the what do they call it, Scam label, Scam Records as well, where Autechre and Boards of Canada would have been on it as well. So I think it's like, I mean, I don't know, it's insulting towards other artists, I suppose, by just saying that. But in a way, I can kind of see where it came, because it's not the usual. I suppose it's more experimental electronic music, but most electronic music should be kind of experimental anyway. But VHS Head's main thing is sampling, for people that are kind of like into it. So he used an Octatrack, and as well, I think, computer programs as well for kind of getting the samples. But the Octatrack seems to be, from looking at him live, seems to be the main and the thing, although it could be completely and utterly wrong, because it's very hard to find out anything.
Figure it out,
but his real name is Abe Barclow. He's anyone who likes that first track there, go over and like his page on Facebook, follow him on Instagram, he's on Twitter as well. It was just a week gone, he did a live show, which is probably one of the best live shows that I've seen streamed over on Facebook and Twitter.
Completely free as well.
Yeah, completely free.
Unreal.
I've never seen, that was my first time, and as well I'm kind of like interested in the process as well behind it, because I make it with different stuff, but I use a lot of samples as well. Don't sound anywhere near I'm quite shit, but he is like, technically he's amazing, and as well I think he's in an age where a lot of people are just copying other people. He is without a shadow of a doubt unique.
Very original.
Like completely and utterly original. But his main source for samples is like from VHSs, which or videotapes, which he collects over the years. So it's not like just from horror movies or kind of like, video nasties or anything like that. It's also like quiz shows, instructional videos and stuff. So
really unusual sources that you wouldn't kind of generally think of to create samples from. So
he's been around for quite a while, and as I was saying, that was the first album there that we heard from, Trademark Ribbons of Gold, the Motorcycles, and I love that song. That's probably one of my favourite songs. So one of my things that I love about VHS, apart from the technical side of it, is that it's like, I'm big 80s kind of like a horror movie guy. Grew up in the 80s, so as well, sci-fi movies, but as well, kind of like anyone who grew up in the 80s, your video was your best friend. Well, maybe that was just me, but so it's kind of like fun listening to the music, trying to pick out if you can.
You suddenly kind of go, oh my god, I saw that video, or it just brings back this weird nostalgia.
So there's the Stuff is also on that one. Anyone that knows that as well. The Violent Breed. And what was there was one there I was like, that's definitely Cameron's Closet off the newer album. And anyone remember Cameron's Closet?
Nope.
No, I suppose it wasn't just me. But it's like, Laura, you don't normally listen to this type of music.
I'm kind of on the periphery and the fringes of it. I listen to a little bit. It'd be more sort of industrial virgin kind of electronic music. It'd be more my sort of scene. But I'm really enjoying this, I have to say, and it's something that you could listen to all day long without getting bored of, that kind of a way. You can just put it on. It can either serve as background music if you're doing something else, or you can actually sink into it and get lost, and just because there's an awful lot of what he does is visuals as well. Yeah, that was the thing. Yeah, he does all his own music videos as well. So you can actually focus up on what he's actually doing and sink into it as well. Yeah. It's not just background stuff. That was the thing with the live thing, which was like as well. I think he was like not editing, but adding in effects into the videos, as well as like making the music when he was playing live. So it's just
like
syncing it all together.
It's amazing. Like, it really is. Like, we were talking before about with the Barted Chip tunes, with the demo scene where like visual artists and musicians came together, and he's like the package all in one. With it. But yeah, he's got a few albums out. One of the other albums as well, which was the biggest one, I suppose the biggest one, but the one where I would have kind of like discovered him at first was called Persistence of Vision. And it was someone recommended, and I was like, oh, VHS stuff, there's all samples of horror movies and stuff. And so I suppose off that, one of my favourite songs as well, Camera Eyes, so I'll play that now. Yeah, and I suppose one of the big things that I found with him is because there's big gaps between the EPs and the albums, which it's not like Tool amount of fucking time, but it's still because the actual process that he uses is like fucking unbelievably time consuming. Anyone that uses samples or has made stuff with samples, and you don't loop samples as well. If you're going through a movie to try and get a piece of like music that you're going to use or a noise that you're going to use where there's no background noise, or that they say with music it's always very hard not to get drums in the background, so you have to go off and then you manipulate it, because like the golden age for samples was in like the 80s really, and even some way into the 90s, whereas people just do the R stuff, as well. There's all these weird algorithms on YouTube as well that pick up on stuff, but from what I can see, what he's processed, to me anyway, seems to be that he gets like part of the thing, cuts it down to small things, and then uses the octatrack to kind of like sequence it together. Probably totally not really wrong. But see, this is a part of the thing, because if you go looking up VHS, you're not going to find too much information. Yeah, there's no instructional manuals or anything like that. There's like one interview that he did, which is on YouTube. If you put that, that's one of the first things that'll come up. He talks, like, he shows his studio and he talks a little bit, but there's still like a lot of mystery around. This is the whole thing. There needs to be mystery around the technique. Otherwise everyone just fucking copies it. Like, to me, a lot of people compare him to Aphex Twin, which I think is not really fair either, because he's very, 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 like, I honestly can't very different, compare him to anyone with it. But one of the tracks as well that kind of off second last EP, I think, which was Midnight Section. It's, if you go onto YouTube and you put VHS Head in, this song will probably be one of the first ones to come up. The music video is fucking great. People should look at it. And this is Death Dimension. Death, Death. I know my accent is.
The Dimension.
Oh yeah, like, I mean, we're after talking a bit about the process and all the other bits and pieces, kind of like to it. And it's one of the things I find with some of this. I mean, why we reached out, I sent a message just saying, hey, would it be okay if we use some of your music? Because I think a lot of this stuff you can talk about, but I never used to, like, say, there was like a type of music journalism in the 70s and the 80s that I think it was still where people become like, oh, it's ecstatic, it's noise terrorism, you know, this kind of like throwing fucking adjectives at it, and where it was just, I think one of the things that I like about this type of music, there's not much to talk about, you just listen to it. Well, there is a lot to talk about, but it's,
that's it. You need to hear to experience it. Yeah, absolutely.
And it is a thing as well, because, like, I mean, you have artists like Apex Twin, Autech, or Boards of Canada, VHS Head. They're very, they're so different, and as well that they kind of go outside of the whole kind of verse chorus kind of thing in song structures. Yeah, it is very, very hard to describe what they do.
It's a soundscape more so than an actual typical song. You can't describe it as a song as such.
Well, yeah, I suppose, yeah. But it is one of the things when you go, it's, to me, he's one of the most underrated out of all those people that are on Scam Records, and still on Scam Records. From what I can gather, there was a new song as well in the live set, which wasn't named or anything like that. Well, I don't think it's named yet, but he has been dropping kind of hints that there's a new album on the way, which I can't fucking wait for. But even with the progression of the albums, you can see they're not all the same at all. With it, like, from the first EP up to the latest EP, Sarah Eats Neon. I suppose there's some of the things, I suppose, but see, I find it hard, but it's not, I don't mean it's accessible, it's all accessible. I think you just have to give it a bit of time. Like, there's going to be an awful lot of people, if you're listening to fucking Miley Cyrus, all of a sudden you're on VHS Head, you're going to be like, oh my god, what's this? And you'll have to, same as I remember the first time you listened to 9 Inch Nails.
Yeah, what is this?
Yeah, it's like, what is this? But it's, I think it's not an acquired taste. It is kind of like intelligent music, for lack of a better word. And it's very, very experimental, totally and utterly unique. I'd urge anyone to kind of, like, after you've heard some of the tracks here, go off and buy some of these records, listen to stuff, kind of like, you know, and support them, because you need to support people.
Absolutely, that are trying something different and that are actually out there making something unusual and unique. It's not just your standard cookie cutter kind of like, oh, here's just another pop track.
Like, I can't say that because I'm just like, God, I'd love to know how you do stuff so I can rip it off. But no, obviously not. Well, you know, it's, you do just kind of go, fucking how the hell. I suppose it's like the thing before, kind of like music videos came along and people were listening to guitar virtuosos going, how the fuck are they doing that? And then when you can see them doing it, you kind of go, but you still can't do it because you don't have the talent. And that'd be me. But not the virtuoso, the talentless.
Yes, there is. Talentless hack that you are.
But yeah, what we'll do is we'll just play out a small bit of one of the newer songs off the last EP, Sarah Eats Neon, which is, I suppose, just to give a little bit more flavour to kind of like, or more of a variety in what he does, because we're only playing, I suppose, what would be the better known and things, just to give people a bit of a taste. So yeah, have a quick listen to this.
Indeed.
Bye.